Imagine this. You wake up, not abruptly, but with a slow, dawning awareness. Sunlight streams through the window, dust motes dancing in the beams. The world outside hums with familiar routines. Cars passing, distant chatter. The predictable rhythm of another Tuesday. You stretch, make coffee, scroll through the curated highlights of 1,000 other lives. Everything feels normal, comfortable, expected. But then a flicker, a question, unbidden, surfaces in the quiet space between thoughts. Is this truly my life? Or am I simply moving through a script written by forces I barely comprehend? You brush it aside. It's uncomfortable, unsettling, like biting into a piece of fruit and finding it hollow inside. You reach for the phone again, for the noise, the distraction, anything to silence the whisper. Why? Why is that moment of genuine, unscripted inquiry so profoundly unsettling? We inhabit the most sophisticated thinking machines in the known universe. 3 pounds of neural circuitry capable of piercing the secrets of stars, composing symphonies, and contemplating infinity itself. Yet when faced with the raw, unfiltered task of thinking for ourselves, truly, deeply, independently, we recoil. We reach for prefabricated opinions, the trending hashtags, the comforting echo chambers that assure us we're right, we're safe, we belong. It's the great contradiction of our time. Unprecedented access to information, yet a terrifying epidemic of intellectual passivity. We swim in an ocean of data, but drown in a teacup of original thought. We curate our identities with meticulous care online, yet hesitate to ask the fundamental questions that define who we are beneath the curated facade. We fear being wrong, being ostracized, being alone with the terrifying silence of our own minds more than we fear living a life unexamined. Is this comfort merely an illusion? A gilded cage we've meticulously constructed? What are we really protecting ourselves from when we outsource our deepest thinking? The burden of responsibility? The terrifying freedom of being truly, irrevocably wrong? Or perhaps something darker, lurking not in the world outside, but within the shadowed corridors of our own psyche? What profound human need does the surrender actually serve, even as it stars our spirit? The silence, when the distractions fade, isn't empty. It echoes with the weight of unchosen paths and unasked questions. We feel it in the quiet desperation, the gnawing sense of dissonance when our actions don't align with any inner compass we can name. This isn't laziness. This is something deeper, older, more insidious. A hidden force, woven into the fabric of our minds and our societies, actively discourages true, sovereign thought. To understand why, we must venture into the labyrinth. That gnawing dissonance you feel when the noise stops, that's the friction between the life you're living and the self you sense could exist, the self capable of genuine, unborrowed thought. We recoil from true independence not because we're inherently lazy, but because the cost feels existential. This surrender isn't accidental. It's deeply woven into human condition, amplified by forces both ancient and terrifyingly modern. At its core lies a profound, often unconscious, terror of freedom. Viktor Frankl, gazing into the abyss of the concentration camps, observed that alongside our will to pleasure resides a deeper will to meaning. Yet, finding meaning is arduous. It demands confronting uncertainty, bearing responsibility for our choices, and facing the terrifying reality of our own solitude in an indifferent universe. Thinking for oneself means standing naked before existence, without the borrowed garments of dogma, trend, or tribe. It's easier, far easier, to let the collective whisper its certainties, even if they chafe. As Erikson warned, the burden of freedom can be so heavy that we willingly flee into new forms of bondage, ideologies, consumer identities, digital tribes, offering the illusion of belonging and purpose. Enter Carl Jung and his concept of the collective unconscious. Beneath our personal minds lies a vast reservoir of shared instincts, archetypes, and inherited patterns. While vital, this collective layer can also become a tyrant. We absorb societal norms, cultural scripts, and inherited fears not just consciously, but osmotically. We internalize the shoulds and musts long before we question them. Thinking independently requires a painful act of separation, differentiating your authentic voice from the deafening chorus of collective. It's a psychological rebellion, But the modern world adds sinister layers. Our brains are wired for efficiency, not truth. Cognitive biases are the shortcuts evolution gave us. Confirmation bias, seeking what agrees, bandwagon effect, following the crowd, authority bias, trusting the perceived expert. These ones help to survive tribes and predators. Now, they make us prey to algorithms and influencers meticulously engineered to exploit them. Every click, every like, every curated feed reinforces our existing beliefs, creating dopamine-fueled echo chambers that feel like community but are prisons of the mind. Nietzsche's prescient warning about the herd morality, where the value of an idea is measured solely by its popularity or utility to the group, not its truth, has become our operational system. The strings aren't just held by society. We grasp them willingly. The promise is seductive, belonging, certainty, safety, the pain of ostracism, the vertigo of doubt, the exhaustion of constant evaluation. These are traded for the comfortable numbness of conformity. We trade the terrifying responsibility of authorship for the passive comfort of readership in our own lives. We become hollowed-out vessels for borrowed thoughts, mistaking the echo for our own voice. But this comfort is a slow poison, leaching vitality and purpose. The true cost isn't just intellectual stagnation. It's the erosion of the self. If we never author our thoughts, do we even exist? The shadow we flee isn't just freedom's burden. It's the terrifying, exhilarating potential of our own unmasked being. What happens when the borrowed scripts crumble, revealing the hollow space where a soul should resonate? The consequences of the silent surrender are already unfolding, shaping a world teetering on the edge. Consequences far more profound than we dare admit. The cost of that comfortable surrender isn't paid in some distant future. It's extracted daily, invisibly, from the marrow of your being and the foundations of the world around you. We mistake the borrowed script for autonomy, the echo chamber for consensus, the curated feed for reality. But this self-imposed intellectual captivity has profound, cascading consequences, a silent erosion shaping everything. First, the personal hollowing out. When you outsource thinking, you starve your own capacity for it. Like an unused muscle, neural pathways for deep analysis, critical evaluation, and nuanced judgment weaken. Cognitive neuroscience reveals a stark truth. The brain prioritizes efficiency over truth, relying on predigested opinions, emotionally charged sound bites, or algorithmic feeds satisfies this craving for ease. You become cognitively lazy, mistaking the feeling of knowing, fueled by confirmation bias, an illusory truth effect. Repetition breeds familiarity. Familiarity breeds acceptance. For genuine understanding, your inner world shrinks. Original ideas feel alien, risky. You become adept at performing thought, parroting, reacting, defending borrowed positions with borrowed passion. But the authentic spark of creation dims. You are, in essence, becoming a ghost inhabiting someone else's blueprint. This personal atrophy fuels a terrifying societal fracturing. Millions of hollowed-out individuals, clinging fiercely to their borrowed certainties, create a world ripe for manipulation and devoid of genuine dialogue. We see it everywhere. Polarization isn't just disagreement. It's a collision of incompatible, unexamined dogmas. Nuanced eyes. Compromise becomes betrayal. The other side isn't merely wrong. They are dehumanized enemies. Why? Because your borrowed ideology is your borrowed identity. Attack the idea, and you attack the fragile self built upon it. This triggers primal defensiveness, amplified by algorithms designed to feed the outrage machine. Mirror neurons meant to foster empathy instead fire only within our chosen tribes, deepening the chasm. Truth itself becomes collateral damage, lost in the fog of alternative facts and weaponized narratives. We build not a marketplace of ideas, but fortified silos hurling rhetorical grenades. Beyond the noise of conflict lies a deeper, more insidious consequence: cultural stagnation and the death of potential. Societies thrive on dissent, innovation, and the courage to question the status quo. When independent thought is stifled, whether by fear, algorithmic bubbles, or the sheer exhaustion of swimming against the current, progress stalls. Unchallenged assumptions become invisible walls. Problems demanding complex, original solutions are met with recycled, ineffective platitudes. Workplaces buzz with activity but lack true innovation. Relationships coast on unexamined routines. Art becomes derivative. We settle for the manageable misery of the known rather than risk the terrifying uncertainty of the truly new. Potential, individual and collective, withers on the vine. The most profound consequence is the erosion of the authentic self. If you never truly choose your thoughts, beliefs, or values, if they are merely absorbed from the cultural ether, your tribe, or the loudest voice, who are you? You become a reflection of reflections, a character in a play written by unseen forces. This isn't freedom. It's a sophisticated form of bondage where the chains are woven from your own unchallenged assumptions and unexamined fears. The gnawing emptiness, the sense of being an imposter in your own life, the feeling that something vital is missing, this is the silent scream of the unrealized self. We navigate a world shaped by these unseen consequences, mistaking the map of the territory, the echo for our voice, the cage for safety. But what if the void we feel isn't absence, but an invitation? What if the chains feel familiar not because they are right, but because we've forgotten the weight of wings? The rebellion doesn't begin out there. It begins in the silent, terrifying space where the borrowed scripts fall away, and something else waits to be born. That charged silence isn't emptiness. It's the fertile ground. The blurred face in the mirror isn't your end. It's the smudged outline of a self waiting to be drawn. Breaking free isn't about rejecting the collective outright. It's about forging a conscious, chosen relationship with it. This is a rebellion. Not with banners and shouts, but in the quiet, relentless act of reclaiming your inner sovereignty. It demands courage bordering on madness in a world that rewards conformity. The first, most radical act is embracing the uncomfortable silence. Viktor Frankl's search for meaning wasn't found in dogma, but in the space between stimulus and response, that sliver of freedom where choice resides. You must dare to disconnect, not just from the noise, the feeds, the pundits, the chatter, but from internalized noise, the inherited shoulds, the fear of exclusion, the craving for easy answers. Sit in the terrifying quiet of your own mind, without agenda, without distraction. Feel the discomfort, the itch to reach for certainty. This is the forge. Here, in the void, your authentic questions begin to surface, raw, unvarnished, and wholly yours. As Nietzsche proclaimed, one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. The void is that necessary chaos. The second act is conscious deconstruction. This isn't nihilism. It's forensic archaeology of the self. When a thought, belief, or strong reaction arises, interrogate it ruthlessly. Is this truly mine? Where did it come from? What fear or desire does it serve? What would I think if I weren't afraid? Channel Jung. Confront your shadow, the disowned parts, the uncomfortable truths you outsource to the other side. Expose the borrowed scripts. See the strings. This isn't about immediate answers. It's about dismantling the automatic pilot. Carl Sagan's tool is vital. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Apply it relentlessly, especially to your own cherished beliefs. Turn your cognitive biases against your conditioning. Use your confirmation bias to actively seek disconfirming evidence for your own views. The third act is deliberate creation and micro-rebellions. Sovereignty is built through tiny, daily acts of conscious choice. Seek discomfort. Consume ideas that genuinely challenge you, not enrage you. Read the philosopher you disagree with charitably. Have a conversation where your goal is understanding, not winning. Practice negative capability. Embrace Keats' concept, the ability to exist in uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason. Tolerate ambiguity. Not everything needs an immediate label or tribe. Cultivate inner authority. Start small. What do you truly enjoy, separate from its social currency? What small decision can you make today based solely on your own discernment? Write in a journal, without the imagined audience of the collective. Think on paper. Let your unfiltered mind roam. Build cognitive friction. Slow down your reactions. Pause before sharing, before agreeing, before dismissing. Ask why, and how do I know, even especially when it feels unnecessary. This friction generates the heat of original thought. This rebellion isn't solitary arrogance. It's recognizing that the collective's threads aren't just chains. They can be raw material. Your inherited culture, language, even biases, these are the clay, but you are the potter. The strings don't vanish. You learn to weave them consciously into a tapestry of your own design, held by inner pillars you've chosen to build. The prison bars become the scaffolding for your liberation. The most terrifying and exhilarating truth whispers. You were never meant to just inherit a world. You were meant to author your reality within it. The cost of comfort was your essence. The rebellion reclaims it. But this sovereignty reveals something even more profound about the nature of existence itself, a truth that reshapes everything. The bridge you step onto doesn't lead away from the world. It leads you deeper into its true nature. The most shattering revelation, the ultimate truth obscured by our fear and conditioning, is this: the separate, sovereign thinker you've been fighting to liberate is itself the grandest illusion. You were never merely a prisoner in the machine, nor simply its potential master. You are the machine, and the machine is consciousness itself, experiencing itself through you. This is a paradigm shift that redefines everything. True independent thought isn't separation. It's conscious participation. The collective isn't an external force oppressing you. It's the ocean in which your individual wave arises. Jung's collective unconscious, Nietzsche's will to power, the quantum field of potential. These are not metaphors pointing to something else. They are descriptions of the fundamental ground of being, of which you are an intrinsic, co-creative part. Your struggle wasn't against a machine. It was against your own unrecognized divinity within it. When you thought you were thinking borrowed thoughts, you were simply resonating unconsciously with aspects of the whole. True sovereignty emerges when you recognize this resonance and choose how to consciously shape it. Here lies the ultimate freedom, far more radical than mere rebellion. You are not just the author of your thoughts. You are the co-author of reality. Your focused awareness, your conscious questioning, your chosen perspective, the quality of your attention, isn't passive observation. It's an act of creation. It collapses potentials into experience. It influences the vibrational field of the collective web. Your inner state isn't private. It ripples outward, shaping the very fabric of the shared reality you perceive as out there. The cage wasn't just a first tool. It was the illusion of separation necessary for the universe to know itself through your unique lens. This means the weight you felt, the burden of freedom, was the gravity of godhood unrecognized. Your every thought, held with conscious awareness, is a prayer, a spell, a fundamental act of world-building. Choosing curiosity over fear, compassion over judgment, nuance over dogma. These aren't just personal preferences. They're vibrational offerings that alter the collective field. When you think for yourself from this recognition, you don't isolate. You become a conscious node of transformation within the whole. You stop seeking answers out there and start embodying the questions that shape a wiser, more vibrant reality right here.